Alright guys, welcome back to Formula 1 news. A big development today on the next cycle of engine regulations in Formula 1. A major innovation that was brought in by Mercedes for the first part of the turbo hybrid era back in 2014 is going to be outlawed, it seems, from 2026 onwards. All other teams, with the exception of Ferrari, have copied this innovation over the last several years. Could this be a big advantage for the Scuderia going into the next cycle of regulations, given apparently their first engine was just up and running only a couple of days ago? Why has this been outlawed? Could it be a potential big hit to the Mercedes power unit going forwards? Very much on Twitter, your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I greatly appreciate it. First of all though, we've got some quality drama going around the Formula 1 world today we've got to dive into. So Bianca Bustamante, if you guys don't know this driver, she's going to be in the Formula 1 Academy going into the new season for McLaren, of course. She joined them relatively recently. There was all this talk about her because she's a very popular driver. Now, some TikTok account anyway was, I guess, rating drivers or something, and it was this screenshot that was posted around from this TikTok which called her overrated. So clearly she saw this going around and wasn't so happy about it. Now, this Twitter goblet here, Fletcher Silberg, quote tweets this, calling Bianca overrated, and says the following. This tweet Bianca went on to, press the like button on Twitter. So this is what's caused all sorts of drama today, and people are wanting Bianca dropped from McLaren and all of this stuff. So it's all going on at the moment. But anyway, Fletcher says the following. How can you say she's overrated when you have people who buy their way into the sport? Now, I should be there with IR, but, whatever. Like Autism Stroll. So, of course, referring to Lance Stroll, I don't exactly know where Autism Stroll came from. It may have been from like a French commentator a few years ago that said it. And, so clearly not what you want to be saying. Who have talent, but if they didn't have daddy's money, they'd be replaced instantly. Don't say she's overrated until she gets her shot. So, look, quality Twitter goblin in the Formula 1 world. But Bianca goes on to like this tweet. So people are like, okay, why was this an accident? Is she being, deliberately ableist, I guess is the way some people were describing it. But the incredible thing about this is that this isn't the only tweet in recent memory that Bianca has liked just trashing Lance Stroll. I don't really know what her vendetta is against Stroll precisely, but, we had this from even October where she liked this tweet saying that, Daddy didn't own the team and be fired by now and all this stuff. So people are saying, oh, she's getting sacked in the morning and all this stuff going on. And then we found another tweet as well here where he'd, someone Norris season, one of these fan accounts, it is, had tweeted this out. He was surrounded by people there to support him and he shoved one of them out of the way. So this way he did the shove. You guys remember the story? Was it Qatar, something like that? I get adrenaline, etc., but basically just trashing on Stroll. So, this all was going on. And then today, I guess she felt the need to apologize for this. Look, these are young drivers. They haven't really had the media training that most of the drivers get. At some point, the drivers and sports people in general will learn not to say and do certain things on social media. With the kind of world I come from, and I mainly cover like esports stuff on the other channels I have, in that world, this is like so petty compared to what people are saying to each other in that type of world. So to me, this is like whatever. But I totally get why there's been a lot of, talk about this today. So Bianca then apologizes, and what she said here was pretty much the worst thing she could possibly say. She eventually deleted all this, but this was tweeted out earlier today. Growing up with a brother who has autism and Down syndrome, I fully support this, and I never in my life ever mocked it. My recent tweet was to address that I was not the person Marta was referring to in her video, and by accident scrolled like on one of the replies. Now, first of all, you might think, well, hang on a second, this is an entirely different thing, which it is. She's apologized for like another saga that I don't really exactly know what happened there, but she didn't really respond to this specific case. Then she goes on to follow up and say, hence why the tweet was a photo of me and my teammate simply portraying our good relationship. I deeply apologize for being a kid who made a mistake. So it's kind of like, deflecting maybe some of the criticism, saying, oh, well, I'm only a kid. It's like, I don't have the full accountability for this. I'm truly sorry. Then I guess she realized that she was apologizing for like something else and not what people were clowning on her for, and then all this got deleted. So I'm guessing there's going to be some sort of apology written out by the PR team at McLaren or something like that. Of course, people have been clowning on her pretty hard for this because at the end of the day, she's going to be 19, going into F1 Academy and stuff, and Lance Stroll, for all you might want to say about his ability and daddy's cash and all this stuff, he was on the podium at that type of age not that long long ago, you know, one of the youngest drivers ever to be on a Formula 1 podium. And while he might not be great, Stroll, he's definitely a solid driver, and I know that Bianca as well has had lots of criticism for her driving over the last couple of years. There was a kind of famous clip at Paul Ricard where she goes 3 wide for no reason, just blasts the other cars off the track. So lots of drama on that today. Obviously, it's a matter of debate on what side of this you come onto, but I just thought that the amount of people on Twitter that were just going so ham on either side of this, I thought was pretty funny. So I thought I'd share a few of the tweets, such as this one, and then, you know, such as this quality Photoshop job, because apparently back in October, Bianca had put this on her Instagram. Haters gonna hate, but at least I'm watching this as a McLaren driver. So people were kind of theorizing what Lance Stroll might come out with as a response if he chooses to respond to this, if he even knows this is going on, as he may well not. Okay, I'm gonna have to splice this one in after recording, but actually Bianca did come out here with an apology. So here we go. And, well, I just thought I'd share this for you guys because she did her own apology, then she's done another one more recently. I truly, deeply apologise. I own up to my mistakes, having liked an inappropriate tweet. I can't believe all the people whom I have hurt. I was scrolling and I accidentally liked the tweet. Once I discovered that later on, I immediately unliked it. As someone who grew up with my only brother having autism, I clearly understand the challenge faced by anyone that is autistic. I would never in a million years support ableism at any level, let alone support an ableist tweet against a fellow driver. I take the topic of autism very seriously and very personal. To Lance Stroll and to anyone that has been offended, I sincerely apologise, as these type of comments is not something that I support. I hope the racing community understands this is 100% an accident. My sincerest apologies for this big mistake. So, you know, as predicted, right? I mean, who could have possibly seen this coming? I will just quickly say, do you really buy this as an accident, right? Because I'm not sure that I personally do. Sure, it is possible to accidentally like a tweet. It definitely happens. But when there's been a few such examples over the last couple of months, it becomes slightly less easy, I suppose, to believe. But anyway, there we go. There's the apology and another classic bit of F1 drama before we get into the good stuff. But speaking of McLaren, the rumour has it they will be confirming or revealing their car on the 14th of February. Almost always, some cars get revealed on Valentine's Day. I believe last year it was Ferrari. So this year it's going to be McLaren. I'm pretty sure Ferrari are doing it the day before. So McLaren on the 14th of February. This is just rumours from Motorsport Italy, but, you know, the rumours so far have been pretty accurate on this one. And apparently the same for Mercedes. So going to be kind of interesting to see the McLaren and the Mercedes, two cars that arguably they could be the two contenders next year with Red Bull. Ferrari possibly as well. I think it's, you know, we never want to count them out, but I did a poll on this on the YouTube channel the other day in the community post thing, and most people thought that it would be Mercedes or McLaren competing with Red Bull, if anybody can, next season. Both cars apparently going to be revealed on the same day. That's going to be interesting. And of course, both cars powered by the same power unit, which is going to be the Mercedes engine. Of course, for now, it's the regulations are stable. But the next cycle of regulations, the development of the power units is going to be massively important. As we saw back in 2014, Mercedes came out the gate with a monster engine, and they took that advantage and dominated for some time to come. Also, some discussion as well on, should the Mercedes go back to silver? Should they stay with the black? I kind of like the black personally. I even think I've seen some kind of concepts with one and the other, like both black and silver, I think look kind of nice. I don't really mind either way, but I think the black looks a bit more menacing, but I think on most occasions I kind of prefer the silver, so I don't really care on this one. But certainly some Mercedes fans are resigned to the fact that they might not be able to be competitive again until 2026 when the next cycle comes around. Brand new aero rules. Sure, it's still going to be ground effect, but there's going to be active aero. So many other things are going to change in 2026, but also, probably more importantly, really, is the engine development. Over the last few years, with the engine freeze and everything like this, it's all been the same, really, since the turbo hybrid era began in 2014. 2026, brand new set of engine regulations. We know that it's going to be 50% effectively ICE, 50% energy, battery deployment, right? 50% electrical, basically. We know that Red Bull haven't been so happy about this. Verstappen's talked about it at quite some length. But this was spotted in the engine rules for 2026 that I don't really believe anyone had talked about before. This is not it's not new news. Like, this has been a thing for a while, but it's only been talked about, I think, really, in the last couple of days as to why this might be done and exactly who it effectively targets compared to some of the other competitors. So, as Vic5516 here points out on the Reddit, the split turbo engine layout has been outlawed in the upcoming 2026 engine regulations. So this is really the graph you want to, well, I guess a diagram really that you guys want to be looking at. We've got a conventional turbo setup here, as you guys can see on the top left, where you've got the turbine powering the compressor. So, you know, you get the exhaust gases come through, powers up the turbine, that then powers the compressor. compresses the air, more combustion. You guys know the drill. Now, this is a conventional turbo setup. This is, though, what we call a split turbo. Now, Mercedes pioneered this back in effectively 2014. I'm not sure they pioneered it in the sense that it's used in other industries. I think maybe truck engines use a split turbo design as well. You won't really see this in any road cars, apart from possibly that like Mercedes AMG 1 thing, which basically I think uses pretty similar to an F1 engine. So, generally the split turbo hasn't exactly caught on in road cars, which is maybe why F1 are going to get rid of it, because they think that, well, it's cool innovation, but it's not really been useful. But I think it is in other industries, to be fair. So this is why people are getting annoyed about this, and I get it. It's like, well, why would you outlaw something which is, it's innovation, it's F1 and the engineers taking steps forward in understanding. If you're going to outlaw that, isn't that kind of against what F1 stands for in some sense? Which maybe it is, so we'll discuss some reasons why in a second. So Mercedes in 2014, they brought this in, and it's a really efficient way to package the engine, the way they're presently designed. You can imagine that if you had a conventional turbo, the way it would sit in the engine is, well, okay, probably still fine. And Ferrari, as we'll discuss in a second, still do this to the day. They've never done the split turbo. But over the last few years, Honda, maybe in 2017, 2018, they also decided to go down the split turbo route. Renault, Alpine have done the same thing since I think 2020, roughly. So, teams realize that Mercedes were gaining an edge by doing this. Maybe a substantial edge, maybe a small edge, but an edge nonetheless. The other teams therefore copied it, with the exception of Ferrari. Ferrari have always stuck by their guns with a conventional turbo approach, as is described here in this article I found on the matter where they talk about Mexico. We know that in Mexico, Ferrari often have kind of struggled with their smaller turbo, but also their turbo is not split, as is described here. Ferrari's turbo arrangement is unique among the 4 F1 PU manufacturers. Not only is it the only one to retain a combined turbine and suppressor, all the other ones have the 2-component split, but it's also significantly smaller. That has benefits, that has costs as well. Now, this is the set of 2026 Formula 1 power unit technical regulations published last year in 2022, but for whatever reason, people haven't really talked about this until now. If I just search up in maximum distance, you will find the following, and well, here we go under section 5.5.5, which refers to the turbocharger. The maximum distance between the rear of the compressor exducer and the front of the turbine inducer will be 175 millimeters, which is not very much. That's, 17.5 centimeters. That is not going to be enough to do this, which is what most teams presently do. So a very interesting observation there that's, as I say, I don't really think anyone's been talking about this up until this point as to what this means. Now, it's not like Mercedes have come out and said, oh, I can't believe it, they're killing us, we innovated this, and now they're saying that we've got to get rid of it. But that seems to effectively be what they want the engines to be going forwards. Now, maybe with the new ICEs, which are going to be smaller and less powerful than the older ones, because currently they make 850 odd horsepower, and the electrical engine battery basically does 160 horsepower, it's going to be 500. So they're going to be smaller, and maybe they're going to find a way to make this work regardless, and I'm sure that they will. Many would ask, though, why? This has been a pretty cool innovation really in F1. The other teams have realized, generally apart from Ferrari, that Mercedes were onto something here. They developed their own concept, and now F1 in the FIA are saying, actually, yeah, we're not going to do that anymore. That's going to be banned. I mean, every time you ban something innovative, people are always going to be like, is this really what we want the sport to be? Now, I would say the most likely explanation for this is because currently we have 4 power unit manufacturers, as I say. Honda, which is going to be Red Bull powertrains, Alpine, which is Renault, Ferrari and Mercedes. Going into 2026, however, we have a fair bit more. Of course, Honda are coming in with Aston Martin, Red Bull powertrains are now their own thing, and then Audi are coming in as well. So that's going to be 6. Now, to kind of entice, I suppose, Audi and other new PU manufacturers to come in, and even, General Motors have said they might make an engine and stuff like this. In order to entice that, you probably need to convince them that they're not going to be at a massive technological disadvantage when they arrive. So I would say that the most likely reason for this outlawing is to say to Audi, look guys, you don't have to worry about this whole split turbo thing that you've never really developed before. We're just going to get rid of that. So Mercedes have to do it the conventional way. The other teams have to do it the conventional way. It's going to be interesting to see if this really makes much difference. On paper, it benefits Ferrari, right? Because they've never used a split turbo. So they can package the engine perfectly well. Okay, maybe it's not as efficient in some ways as if you split it. That's at least what Mercedes found. But Ferrari have never changed their minds. You know, they had a rather good engine, of course, the last couple of seasons that occasionally exploded, and a rather good engine back in 2019, which was, probably not legal, let's be honest. But nonetheless, 2026, they reportedly tested their first 2026 engine on the bench for the first time just the other day. I mean, this was a report that came out just yesterday. And then it wasn't that long ago when Helmut Marko was saying that Red Bull were on par with Mercedes and miles ahead of Ferrari and Audi in terms of their development. So who knows? And half of the engine is going to be electrical. So just because the IC might be less efficient probably doesn't tell the entire story anyway, but it's nonetheless quite important that Ferrari should on paper here have a bit of an edge, as I suppose could, Audi are never going to have an advantage, but I think as a new manufacturer they do get some benefits compared to the incumbents, but they also won't be at the disadvantage of having to deal with this split turbo concept. I imagine Mercedes and, even Honda and Alpine, for example, won't be too happy about this, especially if I'm Mercedes. I'm thinking, come on, we brought this into the sport, it's done rather well, and now you're going to outlaw it. Maybe it wouldn't be the first time. So that's probably not, it's not going to be an advantage for anyone, and probably in the grand scheme of things, it shouldn't make a massive amount of difference, but it's obviously going to cause a fair bit of talking points regardless. Ferrari will have some other things to solve over the next couple of years. Whether they can challenge Red Bull and Verstappen over the next couple of years in itself is a question, but beyond that in 2026, when the opportunity really arises, Ferrari will need to be operationally more efficient than they presently are. But Carlos Sainz actually said that he thinks that their strategy, Ferrari, is actually not that bad, which is probably true, to be honest. Like, it's not good. I'm not going to go that far. But I do think that Ferrari's bad strategies tend to get criticised more than other teams. Like some of the mistakes that Mercedes made this year, or AlphaTauri made this year, or many other strategic blunders. If that was Ferrari, they would be clowned no end. And still they sometimes are. But you know how it goes. People are expecting Ferrari mistakes. And when Ferrari actually do a good strategy, people can't believe their eyes. Now, is Carlos Sainz saying this just because he kind of fancies that new contract? He'd be kind of keen to get pen put to paper on that one relatively soon. Maybe, or maybe he's just saying this because he truly believes it. I'm not really so sure either way, but I thought it was interesting enough to mention regardless. But very much intrigued to your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time.